I'm speaking today with Grant Cuomo, who is a senior at Princeton University, majoring in psychology, graduating this spring, 2023. Grant is also pursuing a certificate of proficiency in entrepreneurship at Princeton. Welcome, Grant.
Thank you.
So was the Entrepreneurship Center or the Entrepreneurship Certificate, was that a factor at all in deciding to attend Princeton?
No, it was not. I didn't really know about it until I would say my sophomore year, and my involvement was rather lucky, I would say. So I was a sophomore in 2022, and I was going to study abroad in Italy, and then obviously COVID happened. It all got canceled, and then I heard they had extended deadlines on some of these programs. And the Keller Center, which is the Center for Entrepreneurship on campus, has a couple summer programs, and I applied to one called Tiger Challenge, and wound up spending my summer virtually with that program, and really developed a passion for entrepreneurship with that.
What is Tiger Challenge? What is
Yeah,
that?
so yeah, it's the best way to describe it, I would say, is sort of a startup immersion program.
Okay.
The way it's laid out is there are groups that are put together, and they're assigned with we call them wicked problems. They're essentially just like pretty deep societal problems, and the groups are then tasked with coming up with a solution. Although sometimes we don't like using the word solution because it's not necessarily that simple. So to give you an example, the problem I was working on was to help uncover hidden stories of heritage and identity, specifically in Montgomery Township, New Jersey. So I know that sounds like a lot at first. So one of our mentors for the program was the mayor at the time, so she was really helpful in terms of actually producing a deliverable. But in short, we it was really focused around Black Americans and Indigenous Americans, and focusing on their history, and how it isn't necessarily represented equally and in whole, pretty much on a wide scale. So
And
the first part of it, yeah, it involves a lot of research and a lot of collaboration with the team. But that's really, so the basic premise is teams working on wicked problems.
So is how did that spark? You said this sparked your interest in entrepreneurship. Is it? How did Can you dig a little deeper on that?
Yes. So the program is very like heavy in design thinking. It's really the focus of the process that we use, to actually tackle these problems is really just design thinking processes. And I really resonated with that topic, and really the process itself. I think it's, as a psychology major, I think it's pretty interesting how people go about solving problems, and to actually have some sort of system developed to it. I found that it really helped with really framing large problems, and I just thought it was something that was really special, and that could be utilized, I'd say.
And the certificate of proficiency in entrepreneurship. So as I understand it, it's you have it's 5 courses. There are 2 mandatory foundational courses. Then there are 2 optional courses, which you can select from, multiple disciplines. And then, as I understand, there's some kind of a practicum, the experiential learning, and did the program that where you studied, Montclair, New Jersey, did that qualify as your practicum?
It did.
Okay, so you were able to check that box.
It worked out. It worked out really well, and I actually returned to the program last summer as a shoot, I'm trying to think of what the term is. I don't want to say advisor. I was a
Advisor,
an
mentor.
associate. I was an associate. I was an
Okay.
associate for the program. So I was actually working. I was actually working with the teams and guiding them through the design thinking process. So, but it was nice to get the practicum checked off early for sure.
And for the optional courses, what were the ones that you selected? I understand that there's, I think, around 14, somewhere around 14 to select from. But what were the two that you chose
I'm
for
gonna
your certificate?
Yeah, let me just take a quick look right now. So I definitely took an anthro course. I think I did anthro 300.
Hmm.
So that was one of them. And I also did EGR 488, Designing Ventures to Change the World, which is one of my most memorable classes, I would say, in my time here. Really just professor was awesome, content was awesome. I really loved it.
Is it
Um,
if you were not pursuing a certificate, would you have even tried to take that course?
hmm,
Would
that's a
you have
good
even been
question.
aware of it?
Because I don't know. I feel like the certificate really sort of, you know, really sort of opened my eyes to entrepreneurship and design thinking, and it sort of uncovered that interest in me. So maybe not, but I think it's just, so I would say, yeah, without, me discovering sort of the Keller Center and what it had to offer,
Yeah.
maybe I wouldn't have taken the course. Um, so I'm glad that I did.
What are some of the other resources that you use at the Keller Center for Entrepreneurship?
Resources at the Keller Center. Well, I am still, working with someone out of the Keller Center, Jessica Long,
Mhm.
who she's the director of the Tiger Challenge, and I've been working with her on a design toolkit. So
Huh.
um, that's really I've stayed pretty involved in the Keller Center ever since really 2020 when I did Tiger Challenge. Um, so in terms of resources, I think just, I feel like I really have the center itself available to me. Like there's a building and I can go there whenever I'd like. To I can work on my own stuff or work on this toolkit. It's a very inviting space. There's
It is
open. Go ahead.
what's a question I ask everybody. Were you an entrepreneur in high school?
Mm, I wouldn't necessarily say so.
Okay.
No.
Um, and how does Princeton define entrepreneurship?
So that is an interesting question because the Keller Center is working on a design certificate as well. So it'll be
Hmm.
both entrepreneurship and design. And it's sort of with the idea of because there's a separation between like traditional entrepreneurship with a capitalistic focus and a business focus and a humanistic side, right? And
Mhm.
like so I think from what I understand, the certificate is going to be titled the Humanistic Design Certificate, and so that is going to be focused on the wicked societal problems, very
Mhm.
similar to what Tiger Challenge is doing, and really focus on the human side of design, and then the entrepreneurship certificate is going to be more on the lines of like that 488 class, right? Designing ventures to change the world. So actually on the more business side of things. So there's kind of two ways that we're going about it,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So I think it's important. I think it's important to at least recognize that. I'm more involved with the humanistic design side of things,
Mhm.
although I have taken the classic entrepreneurship classes and I've really enjoyed them. But in terms of like where I spend my focus outside of classes, it's more on the humanistic design. And I would say we define that um, you know, as using design thinking processes to better understand problems in our world and better develop solutions.
Is that design, humanistic design certificate, is that available?
Not yet.
Not yet. So that's still being defined.
Hopefully
And
next year, I think.
the certificate in entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
So I just want to confirm that that actually does cover both social impact endeavors as well as, let's say, commercial startup endeavors as
Yes.
well. Okay,
Yes.
great.
So and I think that's where the humanistic design it's I think they want to sort of create a distinction between the two, right?
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, so that's how Princeton defines entrepreneurship. How does Grant Cuomo define entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship is certainly more on the business side of things, and I think that's why it's called the humanistic design. So I would define entrepreneurship more on the lines of the process behind developing successful businesses um with desirable cultures, because I think that's an important thing in entrepreneurship is creating good business culture within the businesses. And yeah, so successful businesses with a focus on culture.
Why, besides the luck, why are you pursuing a certificate in entrepreneurship?
About, or I've always been sort of a self-starter.
Mhm.
um I don't really like the idea of doing what doing what other people tell me, although it is certainly beneficial at times. So I've always liked the idea of doing my own thing, which is I think I did have an idea that I wanted to do the entrepreneurship certificate after I got to Princeton, but I didn't know that it would take me where I am now. Um, but like I said, I've always sort of had the idea, or I've always wanted to do something on my own, and I still do, and I think I will.
It, what are the benefits of having a certificate in entrepreneurship on your transcript?
Yeah, it is incredibly diverse in where it can be applied. And and when you consider, sort of how I think how Princeton looks at it and how it tackles the societal side of things. It looks at the, like I mentioned, the business culture side of things. It really covers a lot. I think it's an emerging field, and people are sort of realizing the importance of it, and how really young minds are much more able to think and have that growth mindset and think in ways that are conducive towards entrepreneurship and design thinking. So I think as a young person entering the work field, I think that it is certainly a strength to have.
So it's if I'm looking at your future resume,
Mhm.
or you're pursuing a position or a role somewhere, and I'm looking, okay, major in psychology, certificate in entrepreneurship. How do I read that?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, we can look at psychology a little bit. I mean, that is just involved in everything.
Mhm.
The human mind, understanding behavior and decision making, and how people react to certain things, and you know brain capacity and memory, and all that is relevant in essentially every field. So it's really this the psychology for me is taking a bit of a backseat. And
Hmm.
pushing the entrepreneurship and saying, like, this is my focus, my passion, and the psychology is, I've studied humans and the brain, and I understand decision making processes and models, and like I said, creativity, limits on creativity, how stress affects rationality. You know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of actual, like, science that can go into the things that you talk about in entrepreneurship.
That's actually, that's really fascinating. So that means that at least in your particular case as a psychology major, Your focus is on entrepreneurship and the psychology is an overlay.
Mhm.
So the having that certificate certainly allows you, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it certainly feels like you have a lot more flexibility as to what you want to pursue
Mhm.
post-graduation.
Yeah, definitely. I wish I could tell you that, I knew what I wanted to do and I had a job lined up, but I do not. But I'm not too worried about it.
We'll we'll have longitudinal studies and we'll talk in 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. I'll let you know then.
All right. Um, so which of the following are you familiar with? And this is just a list of entrepreneurship, tools, methodologies, terms. So number one, lean startup.
Lean startup. See, I feel like I've heard that, but I couldn't tell
Okay.
you what it is.
Design thinking.
Yeah, so that one I know a lot about. Um, Talked about it many times. For me, it's just the process behind solving problems, to put it simply.
Okay. Jobs to be done.
Jobs to be done. That just sounds like it's things that need to be done, but I haven't actually heard that.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Systems thinking.
Yes. I think I learned about that. I've learned about that in psych classes. I'm fairly
Okay.
certain. Now systems thinking. I mean, it's really just, is it not just the systems behind thought, and you can you can like trace thoughts back in a system,
Um,
more or less. No.
I, I, it's not for me to answer. Uh, Customer discovery.
Should I be guessing?
Next, business model canvas. Are you familiar with that?
Hmm. Yeah, we were doing those pretty recently. So from what I understand, it's laid out sort of like a chart,
Mhm.
um, and it's asking you really just various questions, helping you sort of lay out a business or an idea. I don't think you're not supposed to fill it all out at once, or you probably can't fill it all out at once usually. Asking various questions like, problem statement and, audience and so forth.
Is that, was that, were you introduced to that through one of the courses that you're taking for the certificate?
No, that's for the Tiger Challenge
Okay.
design toolkit stuff that I'm working on. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Fail fast.
Fail fast. I don't know if I've heard that one.
Yeah. No. So, what do you see as the difference between a commercial startup and a social impact endeavor?
Uh, the biggest difference, I mean, profit, right?
Mhm.
I think commercial startup is profit focused. As if you're going to be a for-profit business, then you should probably be focused on making money, right?
Mhm.
But if you're going to be, a social startup with a focus on some sort of social problem or solving some sort of social problem, well, that's your focus is solving the problem, right? Not necessarily making money. So
But you're going to need money.
you're going to need money, yeah, and that's why nonprofits exist. So
Yeah.
I think that there are certainly there are ways to do it.
Mhm.
There are ways to do it.
One of the things that I'm hearing across many universities, especially in when universities are focused on DEI, diversity, equity, and
Mhm.
inclusion, that the term entrepreneurship and entrepreneur, it has certain connotations, and um, it's the an entrepreneur and entrepreneurship, that's for them, people from
Mhm.
that socioeconomic background and gender and race and that sort of, that's not for me. When you hear entrepreneurship, entrepreneur, are there perhaps other terms that we could or should use, or are you comfortable with those terms?
I'm pretty comfortable with it, although maybe it could be more descriptive because I do feel like the term entrepreneur is like very, very broad.
Mhm.
Um, but as I don't think there's an issue with the term itself, but I think it could be a more, broken down a little more descriptive.
University of California at Berkeley, they use the term change maker more often than entrepreneurship. Is that, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I like that. You you know, I think yeah, I think it's pretty accurate.
Okay.
I think that entrepreneurs are seeking to make change one way and in one way or another.
Did either of your parents start or run a business?
Yes. So my dad was self-employed, but he didn't have employees. It was just him. So
Okay.
yes, but
I
not
mean,
it wasn't like
the question,
it wasn't like a big business.
so you weren't necessarily introduced to entrepreneurship through your parents. I mean, that's
Yeah,
kind of
not
what I'm,
necessarily. Well, yeah, no, I wasn't, my dad's he didn't certainly didn't start a Fortune 500 company,
okay. Um, are you connected with a mentor or an alumni uh, of Princeton?
I I connected. I mean, I know a lot of alumni.
Mhm.
The Princeton Wrestling Alumni Network is very, very large and generous. So it's, I've spoken to many alumni and
But it's not part of the entrepreneur the certificate program.
no, all my alumni experience has been through wrestling.
Um, After you graduate, will you stay connected to the university as a mentor for future entrepreneurship certificate participants?
Um, I would, yeah, I certainly would. I mean, I don't know if I would like stick around for it, but
Right, right.
but I would if I was asked down the line, absolutely.
Would I be able to benefit by contacting you and talking to you about the certificate? And if so, how?
hmm Yeah, well, um, I would certainly talk about the enjoyment that I've had taking the classes.
Mhm.
I recommend a lot. I've recommended these classes to a lot of people, not even just like, oh, you're getting the certificate. Oh, you should take this class. I'm just like, no, this was a great class. You should take it because it's a great class. The end, right? Like, so I've really enjoyed the classes. So that would definitely be one thing I'd say. I also think that the programs that they offer, the Keller Center offer, are like pretty easy to get into. Like, I know that like internships are very competitive and difficult to get into, like if you're looking at outside companies. But these university programs are designed for students and they're pretty easy to get into as a student and they're awesome. I had great experience with them and it really like I told you it really opened my eyes to entrepreneurship and design thinking. So
Um, in order to attain the certificate in entrepreneurship at Princeton, you've got to take 5 courses plus the practicum. That's a lot on top of what, you know, your other pursuits and studies and majors. Would you recommend that there are, any number, 2, 3 courses that you should take just anyway because they're great and, you're going to learn a lot about entrepreneurship, even though you don't actually earn the certificate itself?
so 488 is designing ventures to change the world
Mhm.
and 497 was um uh business leadership, I want to say.
Excellent. Grant, I can't thank you enough for your time and your insights and for all of the questions
Yeah,
that you answered. Thank you.
my pleasure. I hope it was helpful.
It certainly was.